Good morning. As we've been preparing this week to celebrate Dad's life today, we reached out to his brothers and sisters in Switzerland to see if they had a special Bible verse or message that they'd like us to share. It was at that time that we learned of Dad's verse that was given to him at his graduation in 1952 from Mittelschule. When I read the verse for the first time, I chuckled inside. Because if you know Dad, he's a man of very little words. Well, so was the verse given to him. It is Psalm 143:10. Teach me to do your will, for you are my God. May your good spirit lead me on level ground. I believe my dad lived his life on level ground. He was a dedicated husband to my mom. He was a loving dad, grandfather, and above all, he was the most amazing hard worker in everything that he did.
Sorry, getting old. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family, and loved ones. For those who don't know me, my name is Wes Wagner, and I'm the son of Warner. On behalf of my mother, sister, and myself, we would like to thank you all for coming here today and taking the time out of your busy schedules to share in the celebration of Warner's life. Over the years, I have seen a cousin, grandparents, uncles, friends, and most recently, my father-in-law pass away. Unfortunately, these past few months, I've had to come to the grips that I will again face death. My dad is dying. I thought I would get used to it by now, maybe feel some insensitivity to it. However, walking into the building this morning and being directed to the viewing hall, walking to the front of the room and seeing my dad, whose remains are now in the urn, I realized that the pain is stronger than ever. 16 years ago, my father suffered a near-fatal stroke. The years following have been dealt with his declining health and new issues he faced, including COPD, congestive heart failure, diabetes, bladder cancer, prostate cancer, and most recently, stage 4 kidney disease. He spent the last 8 months in and out of hospitals and rehabilitation centers. There were surgeries, physical therapy sessions, occupational therapy sessions, oxygen machines, catheters, and those dreaded pills he hated to take. And every time he was released to go home, he would eventually return to the hospital weaker than the previous time. It was a vicious cycle. Throughout all of this, my mother was by his side. I will digress for a moment to speak about my mother. My mother has shown me how a woman brings love into the world by her selfless dedication to her husband. My mother was always there for Dad in sickness and health. She showed me her unconditional love for him. One day, as I was checking in at the rehabilitation center, the nurse at the counter told me, "Your mother is incredibly strong. I want you to know that she has rarely missed a day. She's always visiting him." Considering the length of my father's hospitalizations, I thought that was incredible. It also speaks to my mother's dedication for a partner of over 52 years. Thank you, Mom. Because without you, Dad would have died years ago. In preparing for the inevitable day, my mother and sister have made arrangements such as the funeral hall, the servers, and the procession. I also have had to come to grips that I am my father's only son. I have already decided that I will be the one who will likely give his eulogy. My brain was running miles with memories, family events, and words of what I will say about my father. Do I speak candidly about his past? Do I mention how his life changed after his stroke? Where do the lessons in life I learned from him come into play? What can a son truly ever say about his father on a day such as this? What can anyone write that might reflect the feelings experienced on losing their father to death? Since my last visit with Dad 2 weeks ago, I have found myself reflecting on what I would want to say before all of you here today. I have contemplated deeply the words that express about the man we all came to know and love in our unique ways. For some people who knew him from the ski industry, perhaps you might remember his attention to detail, his dexterity while splicing mile-long cables, or his ability to focus on the little and large gears and cogs found in the many machines that surrounded him, only to detect flaws that no ordinary man could. For friends and family who may remember his unique sense of humor, his meticulous methods of cutting and stacking wood, and his ability to land his plane on a dime with 35-mile-per-hour shearing winds. But did you also know that my father loved raspberry sherbet with a touch of cherry kirsch? That he loved to watch birds and to see beautiful flowers? Or that he loved to play Pac-Man on the Atari? Did you know that he wore Speedo bikini briefs at the beach? Or for the past 10 years, he slept with a stuffed animal dog called Doggy, and that he named his favorite cat Pussy. Keep it simple, he would say. That was my dad. For me personally, I had trouble at first trying to put these words together. It seemed almost so unfair to try and sum up a man's life, let alone one that was the center of my family's world, in such a small amount of time. But then I started to think of a phrase I've heard so many times in my life: you're your father's son. And anyone who's known myself and my father would probably agree with that saying. Even people I've only met over these past few weeks, one of the first things I hear is how much I look like my father. The thing I remember most about my dad is what an extremely hard worker he was. From when I was little, and he would come home from driving from the various areas in the Northeast, some of which were many hours away, only to wake up at 4 a.m. to repeat that pattern. My father was a man who never stopped working. If any one person could have taught me a more valuable life lesson, I don't know how it could have been. If you want to get somewhere, you have to work for it. And I've tried to follow that example and be my father's son. In the end, I am my father's son. What I take from all that I experienced growing up and what ultimately has shaped who I am is what I learned from my dad from an early age. I worked not because I wanted to, but because Dad had me help him outside the house, from mowing and raking the yard, to cutting trees for firewood, to shoveling snow off the roof and deck. The lessons I learned from this was simple: hard work. You're going to sweat and get blisters and feel pain, but work pays off. Hard work pays off even more. In all that my dad has endured in life, I have learned that you can overcome adversity no matter the challenge. It is easy to quit when life has thrown challenges your way. You look at them and question, can I do this? Can I overcome this? From all that I have seen Dad go through, but also important, all that my mom went through, the answer is yes. All that I am as a son, brother, husband, father, and person is not something that will end because of his death. More importantly, because I am my father's son, and the relationship I've had with him, I will carry it on with who I am. My dad isn't suffering anymore, and so there's a small bit of relief that he's not in pain. But for selfish reasons, I wish he was still here. I wish I could say hello to him again. I wish I could ask him how he was doing. I wish he could see Izzy and Tristan grow up and be part of their lives. I wish I could hear his voice again. It breaks my heart that I can't. I hate death in all its permanence and finality. We're all struggling with this loss, but I remind myself to take comfort in all the good memories. Memories of my dad flying his plane, bulldozing the driveway after winter's mighty storms, mowing the airstrip with his wide-brimmed Mexican hat, or spending weekends at Old Orchard Beach. And while my heart is broken and shattered without him, I know that this time it was his turn to rest. The engines and gearbox have stopped, the bull wheel no longer turns, and the cables cannot be spliced. God found him and he has taken him home, and for once he can stop working, because he's earned it. Dad, I hope you know that it makes me so proud every time someone says to me, You're your father's son, and I can only hope to live up the legacy. I love you. May you rest in peace.
Thank you, Wes and Heidi and Ashley. And the family wanted to open it up if anyone would like to share a memory. You don't need to come forward, but I'll hand you a microphone. Who would like to share a memory? Not everyone all at once. Anyone? You're all pretending you're Werner, huh? Okay. Oh, excellent.
I don't know how many people here got the opportunity to work with Warner. And let me rephrase that, work for Warner, if you did. But that's it was always an honor. One of the very special things about my dear friend and my two pastors, Warner's family is, you have a huge family you probably don't know about. But it was kind of neat because when Warner came to work for you, very quickly you realized, like I said, you were working for him. And that meant that he respected that you were willing to work. He just wanted to show you how to do it right. And the second thing I'd like to tell you is that when Warner did this, and I'm sure he did this all over New England and the country probably, but you weren't just somebody working with Warner, you were adopted. And you were held to a certain level that he expected. And what was really awesome is when you called down for information, you got married. And you realized Warner wasn't the only one that adopted you. I have come to that house many times, and it's Warner and Mary. And I just want to make sure that I got the opportunity to say that. Thank you.
Anyone else? As you all know, Werner was not a man of many words, so in that spirit I'll be brief. Just a couple of things I wanted to say. When I first came to the Guilford Community Church a little over 13 years ago, Mary and Werner attended regularly. This was the church they were married in. Church their children were baptized in. I can picture Mary and Werner sitting in the pew right about there. Sanctuary used to go this way, but you would have been right about there. But more than that, what I really remember when I think of them is Werner's big, strong hands that shook mine. I don't remember if he ever said anything to me, probably something like, "Morning," nod of the head. But those hands told story of a man whose life centered around work, a man who was strong and determined and didn't know what it means to quit. Some people talk a lot. They're good with words and they use flowery words and phrases to tell you how much they love you. Others, like Werner, show you how much they love you by working hard and taking care of you and providing for you and setting an example. That may be old-fashioned or traditional, but it isn't a bad way to live. Now, I don't know if Werner had a favorite Bible verse. I do appreciate Psalm 143. But day after day and year after year, he lived this verse. Whatever your hands find to do with all of your might as unto the Lord. And that's exactly what your husband, your father, your grandfather did. Day after day, from those earliest days on the family farm, through all those years right here in the Northeast, working hard on dozens of different ski slopes, working hard to make sure the equipment he installed was safe and always in good shape. So be like that. Be a person who works hard.